So, hello again. Me and Tomáš will be now talking about integration. It works well, where we will show you integration of Xeelo, CloudTrade, and together this with Blue Prism, of course. We will go through a short demo. We have it on video. But don't worry, I will be talking and commenting it. The reason for the video is that we wanted to avoid potential technical issues. During the whole presentation or demonstration, you can anytime raise your hand or raise your voice, ask your questions. I will try to answer them immediately. In case it will be related to CloudTrade, in case it's something for Xeelo, Tomáš can step in and answer whatever I won't be able to. And yeah, that's for the beginning. And let's start the demonstration. We will be showing you an artificial process, this process of incoming invoices. It's basically something that follows what I mentioned during the morning session. In this process, we combine the abilities of Xeelo to provide as very functionable workflow upon this process, the ability of CloudTrade to read the documents, the invoices in our case, and the Blue Prism to make everything working together nicely, smoothly, according to your needs. So the screen you should be able to see now represents the main screen for you as a user of Xeelo, where you have the overview of your workflow items. In our case, we have only one defined. It's just for this demo purpose. It's for invoices process. But usually we'll be having multiple workflow items in here for each of your process that you are related to. And so this is where your journey as a human user begins in this process. And as you can see, we don't have any workflow items in here so far. So let's start the process. The process of incoming invoices starts, of course, with an incoming invoice. In our case, it's an email with a PDF invoice attached to it. In my case, it was automatically sorted within Outlook because I've created rules according the sender name or sender's email address and the subject of the email. So the email with the invoice ended with the special folder. So this is just to make easier the things within Blue Prism. But of course, this kind of filtering can be done directly within Blue Prism. It can be all emails within a single inbox, and the robot can decide what to take and what to ignore. So simple email with a simple attachment, and on the right of the screen we now see how the process looks in our situation, what we have created in the Blue Prism. It's quite simple and straightforward. The first step is, of course, to receive the email. As you can see on the left screen, email is not untouched now. It's marked red, and next step in our process ensured that the attachment was saved into a temporary folder. So now we have the PDF saved on our local drive, and we can provide it to the Xeelo workflow as an input that starts or that triggers the human part of the process. So now we've sent the PDF into the Xeelo workflow. Now we still don't see anything because it takes some time to refresh, but we want to make it faster, so we can refresh it manually. And after refresh, we can see a new item appeared here. It's in a status saved. It means it's quite new item in here. And the role of you who are looking at it is the role of approver. There could be many roles and many statuses defined for each workflow. So we will open the item, and what we can see in here and what we defined for this particular workflow are two screens or two frames. The frame on the right provides you a preview of the attachment of the file the Blue Prism saved and provided to the Xeelo. And on the left side, there is a potential choice box for you, what you can do in this particular workflow step. In this demo, we have three options. We can pass this invoice into the CloudTrade for capturing the data. We could decide also to send it to Decipher. It's not part of this demonstration, but it's just for you to think about what are the other possibilities that you can have here. Another possibility is to pass the document for manual processing in case it's very specific somehow or a rare kind of document. The right screen, the right frame, the preview allows you to touch not just the visible layer, but also the data layer, the text layer, and it showed up that this particular document really contains that layer. And what we already know from the morning session, the documents with the data layer behind the visual one are very suitable for the processing with CloudTrade. And that's why we choose the option that sends the document to be processed via CloudTrade. So as you could see, we simply confirmed what we want, and the status of the workflow item changed from saved to in progress. And now let's go back to the Blue Prism Studio. What should happen next with the invoice? The very next step is to read the input to reply from the Xeelo. So the robot, the RP robot, can decide which path should it go further. In our case, we've received, as you can see, the response with the letter C, which means that we want to follow the CloudTrade path. Okay, the CloudTrade path starts with sending the PDF document to the CloudTrade service via email. That's what you can remember from the morning session. The comparison with traditional old-fashioned way and the CloudTrade way. The CloudTrade way consists with just send the email to CloudTrade. And CloudTrade will do the job and send you email back with the result. That's so simple. So we will send the email to the CloudTrade using Outlook VBO, because we have Blue Prism version higher than 6.3, something you can remember from the morning session as well. So it's even easier than before. And the email has been sent now. We can check it. Yeah, as you can see, new item is in here, and now we have to just wait for the response from the CloudTrade service. It usually takes about 5 minutes or something like that before the document gets through your mailing servers to get processed on the CloudTrade server and get back to you. In this video, we have skipped that 5 minute, or I think it was 4 minutes waiting. So we can continue the process straight away. The next step is, of course, to read the email again and save the attachment again. Yeah. In the incoming email, we now have two attachments. The PDF, which is basically just a copy of what we sent there before, and the new attachment, which is the XML file. This is the new, the wanted structured output from the CloudTrade server, CloudTrade service. Yeah. So I believe that it's clear to you that the CloudTrade service is pretty easy to use and how it works. So back to our process in Blue Prism. Next step we need to have here is to read the XML. And because the XML is unified, always in the same structure, whoever was the original supplier who sent the email, it doesn't matter. The Blue Prism robots just need to read always the same and very structured XML. So it's easy task to save it into the Blue Prism collection. And that's what you can work with later any way you want. In our case, we will use the collection as an input for Xeelo, and we will send it back to the workflow. So we have done it, and let's see what happens in Xeelo workflow. The status in progress should, yeah, it changed from in progress to approval. So let's open it again. And now we can see the next step in the workflow is a bit different. It contains few more fields than what we had before. It's pretty much everything related to the XML data we got thanks to the CloudTrade service. And in this step, we can check what do we have here. Now it's in machine readable and it's in a structured way. So you don't need to look each particular field within the invoice. The invoice ID and the invoice date are straight away in the top part of the form on the left. And everything is here always in the same structure. And as you can see, the data are read well. It's no big surprise because data already were there. The CloudTrade just extracted them. Beside the header, which is of course in each invoice, this invoice contains also lines with invoice items. In our case, we have only one invoice item in here, but you can imagine that there could be invoices with like 10 invoice items, or even what I've seen is invoice with almost 100 items. It was full of very detailed order specification, and it was really hard to manage the detail, to read, to see what's in here, what's not, for a human. Yeah. So yeah, the robots, the CloudTrade service recognized the one item line. That's correct. And the main attributes like quantity, unit price, gross amount, and so on are displayed directly on this left screen. And if you are interested in detail, you can click on particular item and see additional data in here, like for example the tax percentage and so on. But what's really useful, and I think it's really useful, is the possibility to work with the data in here, like sorting, filtering, searching, sorting, filtering. Yeah, those options for you in case you are interested in particular invoice items and the invoice contains 100 more, so you can easily search, use this search field to look up what you want to, or you can sort it using unit price and so on. Yeah, so I think this could be very handy, even if you don't use any other copy paste possibilities of the fields above. Another quite useful thing what we could do, having the invoice in this electronic structured form, is that we can apply few additional rules on it. Yeah, this workflow can check, because the data are already here. The workflow can check what is the net amount of the invoice, and according the amount, the invoice could go for example, for confirmation to a single person if it's lower amount, or for confirmation by 2 or more people if the invoice is like for million euro, then it makes sense to provide it to more people to check it before it's get paid. Or I can imagine another applied rules, like check who is the sender of the invoice, and then according your local supplier list, send it for approval to the correct person, to the correct department. So the workflow could be so smart. Yeah, according to supplier tax ID as well. So this leads us to the end of the demo. In our case, we end right here after approving the invoice. But what, as I mentioned, the workflow could follow according many additional applied rules based on the data that are already here in the flow and recognized. Yeah. So that's it. That's the demonstration. I can now answer your question related to the video, or we can later go to the CloudTrade portal, CloudTrade web interface, to see what are the options, how to set up your service if you ordered this CloudTrade service, and you can have questions later as well.
Thank you, Standa, for presentation. So guys, if you have any question, please raise your voice so that you can get the information. What I would suggest after answering the question, so that not sure whether Tomáš is going to show how some stuff is done in Xeelo.
I can do that, yes.
Okay.
So it depends whether you want to start with the Xeelo or with the CloudTrade portal.
I would go with Xeelo now, as the time is approaching, so that the audience can see the Xeelo portion as well. And
Yeah,
then
Xeelo,
if we have time, we can go to back to CloudTrade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to make Tomáš presenter.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Excellent.
I should be presenting now.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so thank you, Standa, for the demonstration of Xeelo and CloudTrade, and I would like to show you how it's done in Xeelo. So we can see this task we did in the video, and you can see this simple structure form. We have two kinds of like Xeelo administration. The main kind for the users it's called Xeelo user, and the second one is Xeelo admin, where things are set up, like the forms, the workflow, and so on. So in the front end, you can see this form with this data or so, but somebody needs to configure it. So that's what's the admin section for. So we have these tiles here, and the section where we want to go is objects. As I mentioned in my presentation, our object is called invoice classification. So here are some details about the object, like name, company, object type, and so on. And here, when I click on lines, you can see like the backend of the form. First, we have the classification type, like it contains the reference for the classification type if it's for Decipher or CloudTrade or for manual. Or you have invoice ID here, invoice date, name, and so on and so on. If you noticed earlier, when I start new task here, okay, it's not. Well, we should make a new task with the PDF form. So yeah, every field here contains a some type. So yeah, you can have like a text box or number type or button, checkbox, combo box, even attachments, and so on and so on. Every line has some detailed information, like for combo box or radio buttons, it's reference to the values that contains this. So if I click here, and then the reference is showing up to me, and I can click on values, and here I can see the three types of values I showed, and that is showing on the Xeelo user here. Then, for example, you can have some text box that needs to be, for example, mandatory. So here on the left side is a section that is called validation, and you can choose whatever you want. It can be mandatory without condition or optional, or you can set up here. I have some condition that is disabled if this line is not an M, or the status is not in approval. That's a little bit of details, but yeah, I can show you that it's really simple to create a new form. You just go here to objects, add, type some name, go here, create some section or some tab, some section, and you're free to drag and drop here your whatever you want. Okay, I think that was it. And if you have some questions, we have some like 2 minutes, or that was all from me. I don't know if it was clear to you, but if you want to ask something, just ask me.
Thank you, Tomasz, for showing us Xeelo. Maybe can you answer the question from the morning, whether
Yes.
if you get the answer from Xeelo?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that was the digital signing of documents. I had the information that the Xeelo does not contains the digital signing on itself, because it's not yet unified legislative across the European Union states, where the physical sign is like more valuable than the digital sign. But there are some clients of Xeelo that have this possibility via some other application. Yeah, if you want some more details, we can provide this in the question and ask document we will be sending.
So is my understanding correct that Xeelo itself doesn't have that feature, but you can integrate it with third-party tool which would provide the digital signatures?
Yes, exactly. Also, you can add some picture of signature to the document, but that's not exactly the thing